Heat rally to win it 123-116, thanks in part to Jimmy Butler. 35 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 steals in this one. Jason Tatum coming off that 51-point game against the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 7 on Sunday. He goes for 30 points, but had just 5 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. 3 of his 4 turnovers coming in the final quarter. And it was about 3-point shooting in this game. Miami 16-31, Boston 10-29. We know the Miami Heat like to shoot the 3. Boston not so much. They like to score in the paint. They did that. Thing is, it didn't equal a win for the Boston Celtics, and the difference really in this game was in the third quarter when the Heat outscored the Celtics 46-25, their most points in any quarter in franchise postseason history, and they've got a Game 1 lead here in the Eastern Conference Finals, up 1-0. Game 2 coming your way Friday back in Boston, where the Celtics will look to even it up. And for more, welcome in CBS Sports NBA writer Colin Ward-Henninger. Colin, Jimmy Butler goes for 35 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 steals. Tobias Harris over me. This guy continues to add to his legacy and has another fantastic game. He hit him, see him hit that 3 with a minute to play that goes in fortuitously. I mean, this guy's just carrying this team throughout the NBA playoffs here.
Yeah, Joel Embiid is somewhere shaking his head, maybe shedding a tear, just wondering what could have been if Jimmy Butler stayed on the Sixers. But, I mean, you mentioned it. It's not just the scoring with Jimmy Butler. It's the playmaking. It's the kind of, like, otherworldly sense of where the ball is going to be. You see him jumping in the passing lanes for these steals. He knows where the Celtics are passing the ball before they even know it. And it's when, shots like that you mentioned, the three-pointer that bounces around and falls in, that's when you start to think that there might be some mojo behind this Heat team. Jimmy Butler said, you know what? He thinks this is their year. When they pull off stuff like this, they just completely erase that Boston Celtics halftime lead in the blink of an eye in the third quarter. They hit the Celtics with a punch, and the Celtics just never recovered. So this is what the Heat do. They wear you down, and suddenly you look up at the scoreboard and you're losing, and obviously Jimmy Butler is the main culprit behind that.
Really, this game was about the third quarter, right? Of course, there had to be clutch time and closing out for Jimmy Butler and the Heat, but that third quarter, 46-25, most points in any quarter in franchise postseason for Miami. What did you see differently from Miami in that third quarter compared to the first 2 quarters of this game?
Yeah, so the first thing is they did a better job keeping Boston out of the paint. It was pretty much a free ride to the rim for Boston in the first half. And when Miami locked down defensively, that caused some missed shots and that caused some turnovers, and that allowed Miami to get out in transition, and that's where they got some of those open threes. The other thing that they did was they established Bam Adebayo inside. It looked like the Celtics' game plan was not to help on him, so Bam Adebayo had Robert Williams on him a lot. He got him in the post in the middle of the paint. And I think Eric Spoelstra told him, if you get that, we trust you to make your post move, shoot those little jump hooks, and be aggressive offensively. He did that. Suddenly, the Celtics started collapsing a little more, and that's what opened up some of those three-pointers. I mean, if they shoot 52% from the three-point line, they're going to win pretty much every game this series. So, again, Miami, just when you think you're about to count them out, you think that they're facing a more talented team and they have no chance, they go and do something like that. And it was clear that crowd and the Boston Celtics were stunned by what happened in the third quarter.
Yeah, 6 more made threes than Boston in Game 1. As for Jason Tatum, he goes for 30 points, Colin, but 4 turnovers and several of them costly down the stretch. Is this more about what the Miami Heat did defensively because he only took 5 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter, or was this an inexperience from Joe Mazzulla coaching in a spot like this?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. And Tatum didn't get the ball for a while. Jaylen Brown was kind of doing a little hero ball, kind of trying to take his man one-on-one. But when you saw when Tatum did get the ball, it wasn't necessarily in spots that were advantageous to him. He got isolated against Max Strus a couple of times. I think that's a matchup that the Celtics are happy with. And then it just comes down to whether Tatum can execute. And clearly he was unable to do that in the fourth quarter. I mean, you hate that this is such a what have you done for me lately lead. The guy scores 51 points in a Game 7. And now the news is going to be about how he choked in the fourth quarter in Game 1 against the Heat. But that comes with the territory when you're a superstar and you're vying to be one of the elite players in the NBA. You see Jimmy Butler on the other side. You have no doubt what that guy's going to bring. He has such a good knowledge of how to get his shots, where to get his shots, when to get his shots. that's what Jason Tatum is slowly learning, and it'll be interesting to see how he rebounds from this in the rest of the series.
Yeah, you look at that Boston team coming off that emotional series against the 76ers, having to go to a Game 7, and of course you think maybe advantage Miami because they only had to play 6 games in their other series. So you think, okay, all right, maybe Miami's going to get it going, and that's kind of the way this playoffs has gone between these two teams. The road team has won the last 4 games, game ones in this series. So, okay, credit to the Heat here, but now you're looking ahead to Game 2 for Boston. Mazzulla and his staff, what are the adjustments they've got to make going into Game 2 on Friday?
Yeah, I think we've seen not only throughout this playoffs, but throughout, playoff history that usually when the home team loses Game 1, they come out on fire in Game 2. So really, you heard Joe Mazzulla saying it during the timeouts. We got to get on the floor. We got to be the first to the ball. He got kind of disgusted with his team's defense at one point and threw the clipboard on the ground in front of them. At the end of the day, you can talk about execution. You can talk about game plan. But really, this comes down to the Miami Heat wanting it more than the Boston Celtics, particularly in that second half. That simply can't happen if you're trying to go to the NBA Finals. So we've seen this with the Celtics team before, not just with Joe Mazzulla, but last year with Ime Udoka, where they get a lead and they kind of take their foot off the gas. So really the adjustment to me would be a mental one, would be in aggressiveness, would be saying that even if we get up against this team, we've now seen firsthand what they're capable of, and there's no way that we can try to let them off the hook again.
We in the media tend to become prisoners of the moment, and we tend to laud all the praise to the Game 1 winner, and we like to throw all of the criticism towards the Game 1 loser. When we look at this big picture, because I want to look at this from Miami's standpoint, we know that Boston is a team that expected to be here. Miami's the 7 seed here, right? So, the 8 seed. And we didn't necessarily expect them to be playing for a spot in the NBA Finals. They lose Tyler Hero in Game 1 of their first-round series against the Bucks. I thought the Bucks would be here. They're not here. So when you talk about what Miami's done to get here, what does it say about Miami? Without Tyler Hero, one of their best players coming off the bench, to be in this position now 3 wins away from playing once again for an NBA title?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously comes down to Eric Spoelstra, one of the best coaches in the league. He'll probably go down as one of the best coaches in NBA history. And then Jimmy Butler at the top. When you have leadership like that, you have an undying belief and unwavering confidence that you can win any game against any team. That trickles down. And then you really have to give credit to the Miami front office for finding all of these undrafted players, and then the development staff for developing them. Gabe Vincent, Max Strus hitting huge shots in this game, Caleb Martin coming in and playing huge minutes. You just don't see that with many other teams. You look on paper and you see the Heat without Tyler Hero and without Victor Oladipo, and suddenly you think that the other team has a huge talent advantage. But really, when you look at it, these guys are playing so well that there isn't that big of a talent advantage. The names might not be familiar, but they are playing just as well as any team in this league. So really, we talk about Heat culture. It's become a cliche, but it's true. It starts from the top with Pat Riley, trickles all the way down to the last guy on the bench, and it's really been fun to watch it in this playoffs.
My guy, Kevin Love, coming in and playing valuable minutes, even starting this game as he's been starting for the Miami Heat throughout this postseason and coming in and playing valuable minutes. I mean, they're getting contributions from all over the lineup. It's really, as you said, a tip of the cap to Eric Spoelstra, who's a fantastic NBA coach, and perhaps that is what gets the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals, that experience over the inexperience of Joe Mazzulla. We'll wait to see, or is it going to be perhaps a Game 7 like we had last year and we go the distance one more time? We're about to find out. Game 2 in Boston Friday night. Colin Ward-Henninger breaking it down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Colin, thanks. And Miami turning up the heat in the third quarter. Party in the city, the heat is on, and especially in the third quarter as Miami goes for 46 points in the third. Their most in any quarter in franchise postseason history. It helps lead to a 1-0 series lead against the Boston Celtics. Again, Game 2 coming your way Friday in Boston.